You ever notice how the moment you stop chasing, she suddenly remembers you exist? How the woman who left you, dramatically, emotionally, like she was starring in her own internal Netflix special, somehow finds her way back to your doorstep, as if the GPS in her heart malfunctioned and rerouted her back to the man she swore she was done with? Before we sink our teeth into that, let me remind you, if you haven't watched our latest Patreon video, How to Find Your Purpose, you're walking blindfolded through a battlefield. Purpose is the only shield that keeps you from being dragged around by your emotions, or hers. Now let's begin and see what this woman has to say.
All right, y'all. This is why women come back after leaving. Let's get into it, family. Women tend to make decisions in the heat of the moment, where the thoughts are super loud and extremely hard to quiet. And we make a move, not in clarity, but all in our feelings. The reality is it's unforgiveness that has turned into real resentment. And you feel, or she feels, like she doesn't feel anything for that person anymore. But really it's unforgiveness. So then we explode in bitterness. But what we don't understand and we don't realize is that bitterness and resentment are strong feelings, just in the wrong direction. And so once they leave the relationship and some time has passed and they done calm down, they start to remember the positive thing. Start thinking that, man, this probably could have worked out. And we quickly realize that unforgiveness that turned into resentment and bitterness was the end of a relationship you never truly wanted to end.
One of the most fascinating truths of human nature, a truth men keep misunderstanding because they're too eager, too accommodating, too painfully soft, is that people rarely make decisions from clarity. No, people make decisions from chaos, especially when emotions are involved. And women, despite the myth of cold precision, are not exceptions. When they leave, it's almost never because they've reasoned their way out of the relationship. It's because they were drowning in emotional noise so loud they couldn't hear their own thoughts. You just happened to be closest to the fire when the explosion happened. She didn't leave because the love was gone. She left because the feelings were too intense, too tangled, too unprocessed. And here's the part most men refuse to grasp. Intense feelings don't disappear. They calcify. They ferment. They grow spikes. Those spikes have names: unforgiveness, resentment, bitterness. A study published in the Journal of Social and Personal Relationships found that emotional decisions made under duress predict regret in over 70% of cases. People act rashly, distance themselves, then quietly wrestle with the consequences once the emotional dust settles. That's not romance. It's biology. It's psychology. It's human frailty wearing mascara. When she walked away, she wasn't walking toward clarity. She was fleeing discomfort. There's a difference. She wasn't saying, I no longer care. She was saying, I can't untangle what I feel right now. But of course, she doesn't say it like that. She says, I'm done. Because that sentence feels powerful in a moment where she feels powerless. Bitterness convinces her she feels nothing. Resentment convinces her she's certain. Anger convinces her the story is over. But time is the great exposer of lies. The moment the emotional storm begins to soften, the mind begins its revision process. Memories that were once lit by anger cool into something more recognizable. The affection she swore had vanished resurfaces. Not because it's new, but because it was there all along, buried under layers of unprocessed emotional debris. She replays the moments that mattered, the safety, the laughter, the connection, the sense of being understood, even imperfectly. She realizes the bitterness didn't replace the love. It only blocked her access to it. This is why she comes back. Not because you begged, pleaded, or played the sad puppy act, which, by the way, only accelerates her exit. No, she returns because the emotional fog clears, and what remains is a softer, more accurate reflection of the truth. The truth she was too overwhelmed to see before she stormed off pretending she had it all figured out. But here's the part you must absorb if you want to stop living like a simp, waiting for emotional breadcrumbs. She comes back because you stopped orbiting her emotional gravity. When the noise dies, and you're no longer performing for her attention, she is forced to confront her own internal landscape. And it's rarely as stable as she imagined. Your absence is the mirror. Your silence is the reality check. Your indifference is the catalyst. That doesn't mean you weaponize any of this. It means you stop throwing your soul at the feet of someone trying to outrun their feelings. It means you stand still long enough for the truth to catch up to her. Now, your homework. Yes, you have homework. Because watching without doing is the fastest route to staying exactly the same man you claim you want to outgrow. For the next 7 days, I want you to practice emotional stillness. No chasing. No begging. No checking her social media like a digital detective with no paycheck. Just return to yourself. Journal your own emotional triggers. Study them. Trace them. Understand them. Because a man who understands his own emotional machinery cannot be dragged by someone else's. At the end of those 7 days, ask yourself one question. If she never returns, does my purpose collapse? If your answer is yes, then you don't need her back. You need discipline. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe. Don't hesitate. Men who hesitate end up living their lives as footnotes in someone else's story. And answer this in the comments, because I want to read your mind a little. Have you ever had someone leave you, only to come back when you stopped caring? And what changed in you during that absence?